They labeled me the family disappointment for 15 years until the moment they boarded my personal aircraft and discovered I was a billionaire. Subscribe for more tales where the undervalued ascend and the circumstances finally shift. The invitation to the yearly Thompson family gathering remained unopened on my marble kitchen surface, the striking red lettering capturing the gleam of the Arizona dawn through my glass panels. After 15 years of silence, separation, and intentional obscurity, everything was about to be exposed, and not by my choice. I looked at my phone, re-examining the headline that transformed everything. Forbes, 30 under 40. Leah Thompson's virtual design dynasty valued at $4.1 billion. The piece publishes tomorrow, 2 days prior to the gathering. So much for remaining inconspicuous. Thompson, my assistant's voice emerged through the speaker. Your brother Chris is calling once more. Naturally, he'd been phoning ever since the media announcement broke. I exhaled and answered. Hello, Chris. What the hell, Leah? He shouted. I just finished speaking with CNBC. CNBC. They questioned me about how it feels being the sibling of a billionaire. Care to clarify something for me? I gazed out at the desert horizon from my Scottsdale penthouse. I suppose you'll discover with everyone else? Drop the act. His voice intensified. You allowed us to think you were penniless for years. Mom believed you were couch surfing, concerned sick. Were they? I said, half chuckling. You mean all those speeches about how I was squandering my future? The mockery? The helpful recommendations to go labor for Uncle Mark's insurance company? They were attempting to assist. No, they were trying to shape me, and you permitted them. Silence. Chris, the golden child, Harvard MBA, joined Dad's accounting business at 23. Never questioned anything. How long? He finally inquired. I walked over to the terrace, observing one of my 3 Teslas entering the driveway below. Remember when I relocated to that deteriorating apartment near Tempe? Chris hesitated. Yeah, when you began that 3D art thing. That was 15 years ago. He didn't say anything further, and he didn't need to. That's correct, I said aloud to no one, grinning. Everyone believed I was mad for discarding a finance degree to play with graphics, as Dad used to phrase it. But what none of you understood was that I'd already sold my first VR sculpture series for $660,000 by then. Chris sounded stunned earlier. Yep. And 6 months later, I sold another batch for $200,000. By the time Dad was declaring over Christmas dinner that I was just figuring things out, I had already surpassed the $1 million mark. I could envision Chris now, eyes squinting, calculating the math. But you still borrowed money from Mom and Dad for rent. You drove that beat-up Civic until last year. I actually laughed. I never borrowed money, Chris. I asked them to invest in me, in my company. They refused. Loudly. And that Civic? A choice. Just like this Scottsdale penthouse and the Gulfstream G700 parked at a private hangar downtown. Private jet, he whispered, voice breaking. How wealthy are you exactly? I could hear the disbelief cracking through his carefully composed tone. I thought back to all those dinners where I was the invisible one, the sweet but broke sibling. Our youngest, Tessa, used to theatrically cover the bill, sighing about how difficult things must be for me. Forbes will print 7.2 billion, I said, but that's conservative. The actual figure is closer to 10 inches. The sound Chris made was somewhere between a gasp and a small shriek. I've got to jump into a board meeting, I added casually. See you at the reunion. Click. I turned toward the intercom. Samantha, is everything prepared? Yes, Miss Thompson, she said. Jet is fueled, Rolls-Royce fleet is scheduled to collect each family member, the venue has been secured, private island confirmed, and all NDAs are signed. Perfect. I picked up the reunion invitation again. For 15 years, I'd let them categorize me as the odd one, the dreamer, the financial letdown. But this time they'd see the real me. My phone buzzed. Tessa. OMG Leah. This Forbes thing. Tell me it's a joke. What is happening? I smiled and left her on read. Funny how the quiet ones always surprise them. Tessa, who loved to boast about how she made it in corporate America, while her artistic older sister was still finding herself. The intercom buzzed again. Miss Thompson, both your parents are on the line. I didn't miss a beat. Tell them I'm in a meeting. I glanced at my Cartier watch. And Samantha, call the helipad. I think I'll take the helicopter to the board meeting today. As I gathered my belongings, tablet, sunglasses, notes for the next pitch deck, my mind drifted back to the day everything changed. The day I decided to keep my success a secret. 15 years earlier. 3D design isn't real art, Leah. Dad had scoffed across the dinner table. And this crypto art thing, he added, eyes narrowed, it's a scam. No one in their right mind is going to pay for computer-generated nonsense. I was 22, fresh out of Wharton, sitting at Sunday dinner in my parents' Phoenix estate, trying to explain a vision they didn't want to hear. They hadn't paid for an Ivy League education so I could play with pixels. Actually, Dad, I just sold my first collection for enough. Enough, he snapped, cutting me off. You either come work at the firm like we planned, or you're on your own. No support, no safety net, just a cold cutoff. My mother gave me her trademarked patronizing smile, reaching across the table to pat my hand. Honey, sweetheart, we're just worried. You need structure, something stable, a real career. I looked around the table. Dad's stern glare, Mom's polite pity, Chris's silence, and Tessa's smirk. That was the moment. I didn't tell them about the $150,000 I'd already made, or the 3 immersive galleries courting me, or the venture capital firms emailing me daily. You're right, I said, standing. I'll figure it out on my own. 2 weeks later, I moved into a shoebox studio in Tempe. They assumed I was broke, too stubborn to ask for help. But I was quietly building a digital empire. Year 1. Brutal 18-hour days. Code, art, networking, sleepless ambition. My first major collection, Neon Syntax, sold out in 6 hours. Total earnings, $1.2 million. I reinvested every cent, hired engineers, built platforms, revolutionized what digital ownership meant. But every time I visited home, same Civic, faded jeans, quiet smile. Let me help with rent, Mom would say. No thanks, I'd reply. I'm doing just fine. And I was. More than fine. By the end of that first year, my net worth had crossed $10 million. By year 3, I'd quietly passed $100 million. But to my family, I was still just Leah, the idealistic sister who wasted her potential. Now, 15 years later, as I stepped into my private helicopter on the roof of my Scottsdale building, I thought about how the little white lie had grown into a billion-dollar secret. And in 2 days, everything would change. My phone buzzed again. A text from Dad. We need to talk. I smirked and turned off the phone. He'd have to wait. After 15 years of condescending comments and backhanded concern, they were finally about to learn the truth. And I was going to make sure they never forgot it. The Forbes article dropped at exactly 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was already up, black coffee in hand, laptop open in my sleek home office, a wall of monitors lighting up with chaos in real time. Digital art disruptor. How Leah Thompson quietly built a $10 billion empire. Right under the headline, a photo I personally approved, me in front of my best-selling VR gallery, wearing a custom couture outfit worth more than Tessa's annual salary. The article didn't just reveal my wealth, it mapped out the empire I'd built in silence, The tech platforms, the partnerships, the auctions, the investors. My phone erupted. Tessa. Wait, is this real? $10 billion? Chris. I told you something was up yesterday. Mom. Leah, sweetheart, please call me. Dad. This has to be a mistake. A misprint. Aunt Leah. Is our Leah the Leah Thompson? I muted the chat and checked my inbox. Dozens of interview requests, investment pitches, TED Talk invites. But one email stood out, from my dad's longtime business partner, Martin Delgado. Leah, I believe there may be strategic value in exploring synergies between Thompson Interactive and Delgado Capital. I understand your father may have had past reservations, but I assure you, we're open to evolving. I actually laughed out loud. 3 years ago, I pitched them a collaboration. Martin looked me dead in the eye and said, "We don't gamble on internet gimmicks." My intercom buzzed. "Miss Thompson, your mother is in the lobby. She's quite insistent." I pulled up the security feed. There she was. Elaine Thompson, impeccable as ever in her tailored Chanel, arguing with security like her life depended on it. Let her up, I sighed. Time to face the first ripple of the storm. Overlooking the Arizona mountains, sunlight pouring through glass walls, and a Keith Haring original hanging behind me worth more than my parents' entire house. Leah, my mother whispered, her voice shaking as she stepped fully into the penthouse. What is all this? This is my real home, Mom, I said calmly, handing her a steaming cup of coffee. Not the modest little condo I keep for family drop-ins. She wandered toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, her heels echoing against polished marble floors. But how? When? How long have you been living like this? 15 years, I replied, leaning on the kitchen island. Since the night you and Dad said digital art was a phase, something no one would ever take seriously. She turned slowly, her perfectly done-up face now clouded with confusion and something else I couldn't quite place. But we saw you struggling. The tiny apartment, that old Civic, asking for rent help. I gave a dry smile. I never asked for rent help. I asked you both to invest in my company. There's a difference. And the apartment, the car, all part of the illusion. I played the role you believed, the broke dreamer, the lost one. That was the only version of me you ever accepted. Her lips parted in disbelief. You lied to us, Leah. For 15 years. No, I said quietly. I just didn't correct the story you all chose to believe. You were so sure I was failing. You never looked deeper. She sank slowly into one of my custom leather chairs. Her posture crumbled, and for the first time in years, she appeared her age. Does anyone else know? Just Chris, I said. He discovered when the press announcement went live. I think he attempted to alert you. She nodded. He phoned your father, said it must be an error, some other Leah Thompson. I walked to my desk and handed her a folder. Here's the proposal I presented to Dad 3 years ago. If he'd invested the $1 million I requested, his portion would be worth over $100 million today. Her hands shook. He said you were seeking a handout, she whispered. That your art had flopped. And you believed him. She didn't respond. Did any of you ever attend one of my exhibitions? Google my name? Nothing? I turned back to the window, watching the city hum below. The family gathering is still on, by the way, but I altered the location. I purchased the entire resort. It's private now. Everyone will be collected by Rolls-Royces, flown on my jet, and will be celebrating on my private island. Your island? My mother echoed, her voice barely audible. In the Caribbean, I said casually. I acquired it last year after completing my first billion-dollar transaction. I turned to face her completely. And Mom, This time, I won't be the silent one sitting through dinner while everyone lists their promotions and new real estate purchases. I've got some things to share too. She stood up slowly, smoothing her silk skirt with trembling hands. Your father, when he sees all of this, her voice wavered. He'll have no choice but to acknowledge it. That his daughter, his artist daughter, built something greater than anything in the Thompson legacy. I smiled gently. And Mom, that's just the start. I walked her to the elevator, pausing just before the doors opened. Oh, and one more thing. Remember that Bentley you've always desired? The one Dad says is too impractical? She looked at me, puzzled. I purchased 3 of them last month, I said with a shrug. Just because I could. The doors slid shut on her shocked expression. As soon as she departed, I hit the intercom. Samantha, is everything arranged for the gathering? Yes, Miss Thompson, she replied smoothly. Island staff are fully prepared. Each guest will receive a personalized folder documenting every investment opportunity they declined over the years, along with current valuations. The video timeline of your achievements is completed and ready for the welcome dinner. Excellent. I picked up my phone, opened the family group chat, and typed a single message. Looking forward to seeing everyone at the gathering. Dress appropriately for a private island. Transportation will be arranged. Then I refreshed the stock dashboard on my laptop. My company's value had climbed since the Forbes piece hit, another billion added to my net worth before sunrise. I thought of my father, probably in his office right now, trying to comprehend how the daughter he dismissed had quietly become one of the wealthiest women in America. I thought of Tessa, still boasting about her 6-figure salary and Hampton's beach house, blissfully unaware I could purchase her entire life with a week's interest. This gathering, it was going to be unforgettable. My phone buzzed again. A message from Dad. We need to talk before the gathering. Some things are better discussed privately. I typed back, everything will be discussed at the gathering, Dad. Isn't that what gatherings are for? Sharing our accomplishments? Then I called Samantha once more. Have the design team repaint the helipad. Make sure my name is clearly visible from the air. It's already done, Miss Thompson. Anything else? Samantha asked over the line. I paused, thinking of 15 years of pity, mockery, and being labeled the family disappointment. Yes, have the Forbes piece framed and hung in every room on the island. I want it to be the first thing they see, no matter where they turn. As I ended the call, I caught my reflection in the glass, calm, confident, wealthy beyond imagination, and finally ready to show them all who I really was. The countdown was over. The morning of the Thompson family gathering arrived clear and bright. I stood on the private runway of my Scottsdale airfield, watching as 3 black Rolls-Royces pulled in, one after another. They had arrived. The doors opened. First came my father, still upright, still sharp-eyed, but his confidence diminished. My mother followed, more subdued than usual after our conversation days earlier. Chris, Tessa, and a wave of aunts, uncles, and cousins trailed behind, their faces full of disbelief and veiled judgment. And there, waiting for them in the center of it all, sat my jet, sleek, white, gleaming. Thompson Interactive, emblazoned in brushed silver along the fuselage. Welcome, everyone, I said, letting my voice carry. Hope the ride was comfortable. Leah, my father said, stepping forward, trying to reclaim his usual authority. This is a bit excessive. The resort would have been just fine. I smiled. The resort was too public, Dad. This gathering needed to be more meaningful. On my island. Your what? Tessa muttered, clutching her Dior bag. Of course you have an island. As they boarded the jet, I watched their eyes shift, soaking in the gold-trimmed interior, the original artwork, the Dom Perignon and crystal flutes. Is that a real Picasso? Aunt Ella whispered. Yes, I replied. Picked it up last year. My father cleared his throat. Leah, maybe we should talk. We will when we land. Until then, enjoy the champagne, I said, tilting my glass. It costs more than your company made last quarter. He flinched. Perfect. 2 hours later, we descended toward a glittering jewel in the ocean, my 300-acre private island with a luxury resort nestled at its heart. Let the gathering begin. And there it was, visible from the sky, exactly as planned. My name, Leah Thompson, spelled out in letters so large and bold they could practically be seen from orbit. So big, Tessa gasped, misreading the name at first. Then her jaw dropped. As we landed, I heard her whisper, "Of course she branded the helipad." Surrounding it were massive digital screens, each cycling through my most successful immersive art collections. The sale prices were prominently displayed: $2.3 million, $6.7 million, $11.5 million. Each one a statement in itself. Welcome to Thompson Island, I said, stepping onto the tarmac. My own little slice of paradise. Little? Chris muttered, eyes wide. The resort complex that stood before them was a seamless blend of futuristic architecture and untouched Caribbean beauty. Everyone's rooms are ready, I continued. There's some reading material waiting in each suite. I suggest you review it before dinner. The reading material was customized. For Dad, a printed timeline of every deal he declined, each missed opportunity annotated with present-day valuations. For Tessa, a comparison of her entire annual salary versus what I earn in interest per day. For Chris, an internal audit showing how much his firm lost by turning down a collaboration with my platform. I gave them an hour to settle in, then I summoned them to the main dining hall, a glass-walled space overlooking turquoise waves. The long table sparkled with crystal, silver, and place settings worth more than most cars. And on every wall, the Forbes article. Framed, backlit, impossible to ignore. They entered slowly, all pretense of confidence fading. Even their designer outfits looked oddly out of place here. Please have a seat, I said warmly. We have quite a bit to discuss. Leah, Dad began, attempting diplomacy. I think I speak for all of us when I say we're surprised. Surprised? I repeated with a soft laugh. Not angry that I kept this from you? Not disappointed I didn't share the truth? Just surprised? We didn't know, Mom murmured. No, you didn't want to know, I corrected her. Every time I tried to discuss my work, you changed the subject. Every time I offered you a seat at the table, you dismissed me. But the apartment? Tessa said, voice small. The Civic. The times I picked up the check because I thought... Because you thought I was broke? I finished for her. Did you enjoy that, Tessa? Being the successful sister? The savior? She looked down, cheeks flushed. At least she had the decency to look ashamed. Let me show you something, I said calmly, pressing a discreet button on the side of the dining table. Motorized panels opened overhead, and high-resolution screens descended. A timeline appeared, juxtaposing milestones in my journey with the words they'd used to dismiss me. 2010. This 3D art thing is a waste of your degree, Dad. Result: my first digital sculpture collection sells for $150,000. 2012. Leah, you need a stable career, Mom. Result: company valuation hits $15 million. 2015. At least one of us is doing well, Tessa. Result: I close a $120 million partnership with a major tech firm. 2018. Crypto art sounds like a scam, Chris. Result: my platform crosses 500,000 users and $600 million in sales. 2022. We don't fund online gimmicks, Dad's firm. Result: Company valuation surpasses $3 billion. Every single comment, every time you looked at me like I was chasing a fantasy, I said, my voice steady. I remembered all of it, and I used it. My father swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell us? Because you never wanted to hear it, I said. You needed to learn that success doesn't wear a suit. It doesn't follow your playbook. And sometimes, the person you underestimate changes everything. I walked to the edge of the room, glass walls framing endless turquoise water. The hardest part wasn't keeping secrets. It was watching you all celebrate each other while I was building something you couldn't see. Mediocrity, Marcus said through gritted teeth. Yes, I said. You played it safe. That was your ceiling. Mine was higher. I turned to Tessa. You flaunted your six-figure salary like it was gold. I made that during a coffee break. Dad stood. Enough. We were wrong, okay? No, I said firmly. I don't want an apology. I want you to understand. I pressed another button. The screen shifted, revealing the prototype of my latest creation. This launches next month. A redefinition of how art is created, owned, and valued. Estimated worth $10 billion. I looked at them all. This time you'll see it happen with your own eyes. No more doubting. The room fell into deep silence, the kind that only comes when illusions finally collapse. My family sat frozen, absorbing the reality they had ignored for so long. Finally, my mother spoke. We're proud of you, Leah. We should have been proud all along. Thank you, Mom, I said gently. But I didn't do this for your pride. I did it because it was my dream, my vision. I looked around at the opulence they now couldn't deny. And now it's my empire. So what happens now? Chris asked quietly. Now? I echoed, pouring myself a glass of wine. Now we have dinner as a family, but this time we'll do it my way. No more pretending, no more hiding. I raised my glass. To the truth. Finally. One by one, they lifted their glasses. The shock hadn't fully worn off, but something was shifting. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of Michelin-level cuisine, aged wine, and hesitant but warming conversation. For the first time in 15 years, they weren't just seeing me. They were really seeing me. When they finally retired to their suites, I stayed behind, watching moonlight dance across the waves. Samantha appeared beside me, her voice soft. Was it worth it? I thought back to the timeline, their stunned expressions, the pride they never used to show. Yes, I said, but not for the reasons I thought. It wasn't about proving them wrong anymore. It was about finally being free, fully myself. I smiled. And tomorrow, we show them the future. Their world of mutual funds, corporate ladders, and conservative choices was fading. The world I'd built, interactive, immersive, transformative, was just beginning. Later that night, I found a note slipped under my door, my father's handwriting. I was wrong. Not just about your business, about everything. You didn't just succeed, you changed the game. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Dad. I placed it in a frame beside the receipt from my first digital sale, $50,000, a reminder of where it began. The next morning, as my family gathered for breakfast, attitudes softened, curiosity blooming, I realized something profound. Success isn't just about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. And sometimes, the sweetest victory isn't loud. It's in quietly knowing you built something extraordinary while the world was busy doubting you. My phone buzzed. Breaking. Thompson Interactive announces revolutionary new platform. The future had arrived, and this time they'd be watching it unfold. No more hiding, no more pretending, just success on my terms. If you've heard my story, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you would do if you were in my shoes. Would you keep going even when your family didn't believe in you? Would you stay silent or make the world listen when the time is right? Your support means more than you think. Share this video if you believe in second chances, in building something powerful even when no one is watching. And don't forget to subscribe, because this isn't just my story. It's for anyone who's ever been doubted, dismissed, or underestimated. And if you're chasing a dream right now, keep going. People may laugh, they may doubt you, they may call you crazy. Let them. Let their doubts fuel your drive. Build quietly, grow, and when the time comes, let the results speak for themselves. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your vision, but someday, you owe it to yourself to prove you were right all along. Because success, it's not about shouting the loudest, it's about being undeniable. Now tell me below, what dream are you unwilling to let go of?